thing you've been putting off? Maybe you say, someday I'll do that, or when I have more time. Whether the item is a big bucket list item or something smaller like going on a hike, now is the time to start your Say Yes list. And we have the perfect process to help you turn these items into reality. Join thousands of others with our free Say Yes list template at thesayesexperience.com/list. It'll help you stop living in that someday and start making those list items come true today. So download it now at thesayesexperience.com/list. Welcome to the Say Yes Experience podcast, where we inspire you to get out of your comfort zone and into possibilities. Our mission at the Say Yes Experience is to empower 10 million people to say yes. If you're new here, welcome. We're thrilled you're here. I'm Jessica Rector. I co-founded the Say Yes Experience with my then 9-year-old son Blaze, based off his idea to let's just say yes to things. I'm one of the top experts on burnout, and companies and conferences hire me to present on mental health, wellness, and burnout prevention. As a #1 best-selling author of 11 books, keynote speaker, and a burnout specialist, I've seen so much with our clients. The Say Yes Experience was started to help you really start living, to do the things that light you up, have more fun, and turn your dreams, or what we call Say Yes list items, into reality. So thank you for investing in yourself and being here. Now let's make it happen. Our guest today took his stage 4 cancer diagnosis and flipped it on its head. As a 41-year-old, he gave himself some surprising options. The first one, he decided to do something that no one else would think about doing during their chemotherapy and radiation treatments, and it saved his life. Then he created a massive ripple effect when his determination got a law passed that now saves thousands of lives. So please help me welcome my guest today, Steve Cooper. Thanks for being on the show, Steve. We're so excited you're here. So you have an interesting story. You were diagnosed with cancer. So tell us a little bit about that. And then that kind of transitions over into a second part of what we're going to talk about as well. But give us a little bit of background on that first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed in 2012 with a very aggressive form of prostate cancer that metastasized and became a stage 4 disease. And I've been battling that ever since.
Wow. Okay. So it was very aggressive. And so what kind of cancer was it? And what did the doctors share with you when they told you the news?
Sure. So it was a stage 4 disease, spread to my lymph nodes and pelvic bone. And I was given 6 to 12 months initially to live because of the intensity of the disease and because of the spread. So it was really difficult, right? When you're told that you have 6 to 12 months to live and you're 41 years of age, it really puts a lot of things in perspective for you.
Yeah. So what did you immediately think? Were you like, okay, well, here's all the things that I need to go and do before that 6 months or 12 months? Or what were those immediate thoughts that came into your mind? And quite frankly, were you shocked that you had this? I mean, were you going and getting regular checkups, or did you not ever go to the doctor and then you were feeling, some kind of symptoms, so you then went and got checked?
So, initially there's the fight or flight situation that we face, I think, when we're presented with something that's, really insurmountable as it seems Absolutely. At the time. And so that was, I think, the first phase is, do I fight or do I flight, right? And so I think that was it. And, I chose to fight. You asked a great question also about, the situation and, the disease itself. What are some of the, successes and why was I diagnosed at my age? And so I started thinking a lot about this. And, it's difficult because prostate cancer typically is associated with being an older man's disease.
Yes.
And upwards of 60, 70 years old. And it's really difficult because this disease especially affects reproductive organs, abilities to have erection, maintain urinary control, things of that nature. And so that was really difficult being 41, being single. Really, it's a lot more than just the disease itself. It's like, wow, this can affect literally every part of my life and my lifestyle. And so that was really difficult. I think in part because we don't discuss this disease very much. There's a lot of unknown. Myself, my father was a doctor, so I was in hospitals, I was around doctors, but even, myself being 41, I wasn't educated at all about the disease. And so, the one thing that I decided to do was, when I first was faced with this decision to fight or flight was, I want to inspire other people. I want to educate them. And so I think sharing our story is a big part. And I mean us, meaning people in the cancer community, or anyone that's struggling, any adversity for that matter,
Right.
should really consider sharing your story, because you're probably not the only one in the world facing this particular issue.
Right.
I don't really know many people in the world, if any, that have an issue that no one's ever had before, right?
Right.
And so maybe
Absolutely.
there's a couple outliers out there, right? Maybe there's a president that, whatever, convicted of a crime. But I mean, even that is so random, right? I think much more important is you can share that message of inspiration and hope for other people, so that they can not only learn, but then take preventive measures, so that hopefully they don't have to deal with the same disease you have or challenge.
Absolutely. 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 When you get that prognosis, stage 4 cancer, even when you say, okay, fight or flight, when you say, I'm going to fight, it's stage 4 cancer.
Mhm.
So when you're saying, okay, I'm going to fight, what did that mean to you in terms of getting through it?
So, I always envision a mountain, and you just, when you look at a challenge, and when you're told it's a stage 4 disease, you just think of Mount Everest. That's what I think of. And you think of, wow, it's probably the hardest physical feat in terms of walking is to climb Mount Everest. And so I look at, with stage 4 disease, you're not only climbing Mount Everest, you're doing it with a lot of weight on your back,
Yes.
leading other people, bad weather, and on and on and on, right? Every obstacle you can imagine is going to be thrown in your way.
Yeah.
But one thing I've learned just following people that have been very successful is where you look is where you're going to go. And so I think if you stay focused on that objective, that mountaintop, I think you can get there in the right circumstances. So that's probably the best analogy I can think of, is that you have to climb Mount Everest and you have a lot of challenges, but literally you have to break it down into one step at a time.
Yes.
And I think in the cancer world, that means, okay, first step, and if for most of us, is to get the tumor out of the body, right? Or the tumors. So surgery. And then typically we follow on with some radiation and chemotherapy and other types of anti-hormone therapy, et cetera. So, but when you think about chemo, radiation, surgery, hormone therapy, it's a lot. And I was very fortunate that I have great doctors that really not only triage this, but help me focus. That they didn't talk about chemotherapy and radiation and hormone therapy initially. They talked about getting rid of the cancer. Let's do surgery first. And so that was the first step in getting to Mount Everest, right to the top.
Yeah.
Was let's just take this cancer out. And then when you get through that, the next phase is going to be, okay, radiation, and you get through that phase, and then the next step is chemotherapy. However, what I wanted to chat about was I took a much different approach to the cancer treatment than I think a lot of people do. And that was the amount of exercise that I incorporated into my cancer regimen, if you will.
Okay, what's that? What is that like? Because most people are not thinking stage 4 cancer.
Yes.
And exercise. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I was doing some research when I first got diagnosed about just being active and exercising during cancer treatments. And there's a couple of fascinating studies. One that showed that people that were given a placebo chemotherapy, so they were not even given chemotherapy, they still acted like they were sick. And so losing the hair, fatigue, vomiting, diarrhea, et cetera. And so that I kind of flipped it and said, well, if that's true, is the inverse true, right? So if I take the drug, can I still have a good attitude, be happy, stay healthy, not vomit, not lose my hair, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the first thing, was trying to flip the script there. And then there was an interesting study about women with breast cancer who rode a stationary bicycle during chemotherapy, during the session itself. And those women that did just 30 to 45 minutes of light pedaling during the chemo infusion not only reported less side effects, but what they also found was they had a less recurrence of the disease itself.
Wow.
And that's powerful. So
that's very powerful.
I said, if I put all this together, what does that mean for me? So what that meant for me was I started Googling hardest physical event on earth in a single day. And this thing called the Ironman kept popping up, and I had no idea what the Ironman was. And that's a race, a triathlon. It's considered the hardest physical event in a 24-hour period on Earth. And you swim 2.5 miles, which is just ridiculous, I think, if you're not a swimmer. Then you bike 112 miles all over the place. And then you complete a marathon after all of that madness. And so in total, you're doing over 140 miles in a single day. And so I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. When I was told I had to have radiation, I said, I'm going to do an Ironman during radiation. And what that did for me was it gave me not only a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, but I substituted the typical cancer support group, which for prostate cancer is a bunch of old men sitting around a circle complaining about their lives. And so now my support group were people that were in their prime, doing the hardest event on earth, very optimistic, most positive people you'll find. And so when I would go to a group ride, for example, and they'd say, how are you feeling today, Steve? I'm like, not too great. They're like, all right, great. Pat on the back. Let's go ride 30 miles or let's go ride 70 miles. And so they listened, but then it was a pat on the back. Let's go. You can do this. And let's go for a bike ride or let's go for a run or swim. And so what I found that I want to share with you it's just, to me to this day, I still look back in awe about what we accomplished was that my Ironman time, the time to complete the event during chemotherapy was faster than during radiation time. So I did Ironman during radiation. And then when I did it during chemotherapy, I was actually faster. And so when we break that down, my trainer actually did little mini physical assessments of people during chemotherapy as I continue to exercise. And in terms of like push-ups and pull-ups and things of that nature, I actually got stronger during chemotherapy because I was exercising towards a goal, which is the second part, doing an Ironman during chemotherapy.
Wow. Okay. Now that like blows the mind, right? So, and how long has it been since you had cancer? You said 2012. So
10 years. So I've been 10 years cancer-free now.
Yeah. How incredible is that? Oh my gosh. Congratulations. That's exciting. That's such a shift in mentality and mindset too, because not only do people think that, just the public in general think that when you have chemotherapy, you're going to be laying in bed because you need that time to recover. You're going to be sick. You're going to be weak. But yet running or doing an Ironman where you're swimming, biking, and running, during chemotherapy and radiation, that sounds like mind-blowing because I think what we've learned so much about cancer, those seem like polar opposites of what you'd want to do during that time or what your body needs during that time. Yeah. Right. Or even what your body needs during that time. Like it needs to recover, it needs to recharge, it needs to just lay there. But when you're going through and training, I mean, that just seems so fascinating. And I wonder what the cancer rates would be if more people started doing that kind of exercise through cancer, or the cancer survival rates, how much they would continue to increase if people were doing that exercise through it. And that's probably information that a lot of people who have cancer don't even know about.
Right. I agree 100%. Not only would, if we exercise more, and I'm in that boat, I could go through phases where I need to exercise more, we would reduce the cancer rate. And then also when we exercise during our treatments, we can not only reduce the side effects, but also reduce the reoccurrence of the disease itself. And so it's really mind-blowing. That's fascinating. Yeah, and there's a small movement now. There's universities studying this exact issue, the effects of exercise during cancer treatments, to where Sloan Kettering predicts that one day you will get, when you go to your doctor and you're given a diagnosis of cancer, you will also receive a prescription for exercise.
That's awesome.
That prescription for exercise will be highly tailored toward your specific disease, your genetics, your risk factors, everything, your body type.
Yeah.
And so you just can imagine if someone's diagnosed with, just take breast cancer, okay, might not be doing a lot of push-ups, right? Or a lot of pull-ups, but they might be able to do some jogging and some other type of sit-ups perhaps. So I'm just throwing that out there, as an example.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
that prescription for exercise can be powerful for the future.
And how do you think that that exercise also helped with the emotional aspect? Because as you're talking about, like the things that you're 41, like in the prime of your life, and you're single. So you were talking about the things that prostate cancer can impact. So that's got to emotionally take a toll on you as well. Do you think that there's a correlation between the exercise and emotionally healing, if you will?
Do you want to start saying yes, but you just don't know where to start? And oftentimes when we don't know where to start, we just don't start. So we created an ebook just for you. We put together 101 ways to say yes. In this ebook, ideas big and small, things that only take a small amount of time, like 1 to 2 minutes. Whether you're saying yes to yourself, in your family, relationships, or pushing yourself lovingly outside of your comfort zone with adventures, it's all made to really help you become more of your rock star self. So you can get this ebook at thesayyesexperience.com/book, BOOK. So if you want to start saying yes, or maybe you need some ideas on how to say yes because you get so caught up in being busy and doing tasks and projects or doing laundry and cooking that the time flies by and you want to spend time with your family, but you just don't know how to say yes. Those ideas just don't come to you. We put it together to make it super, super easy for you. So go to thesayyesexperience.com/book to get your copy today and start saying yes now. Are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or burned out? We get it. You're not alone. In fact, according to our research, 79% of the workforce is in burnout and almost half are in extreme burnout. In fact, it's the number one reason why people are leaving organizations. They're burned out. They're looking for something more. They're looking for something better. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have your solution. It's called Blaze Your Brain to Extinguish Burnout. 52 keys to prevent, breakthrough, and eliminate burnout. You can find your copy at jessicarector.com/store. Now, this is a great tool that you can use with yourself, with your colleagues, within your organization. Everyone can get one, and you can go through one a week with them. And at the end, you can say, what was something that worked this week? What was a success you had? So you can champion and encourage each other. You can also ask what were the challenges and issues that came up, so you can mastermind and brainstorm around those to keep those from coming up in the future. So make sure you get your copy at jessicarector.com/store. All books are autographed with a personal message just for you.
100%. I do believe, and I did believe in cognitive-based therapy, psychology, or counseling sessions, if you will. I started counseling when I first got diagnosed. I stayed consistent every month during my treatments and after treatments to deal with the side effects, the depression, the anxiety that comes with any significant challenge like that. But I didn't take one antidepressant during the whole time of radiation, chemo, and surgery, and very limited pain medications, if any. And so I look back and I think about, when you're able to exercise at a higher level or even any level compared to where you're at, I think you can really try to prevent some of the anxiety and depression that come with that type of diagnosis.
Yes, I think, so fascinating, Steve. And it's so inspiring as well. But one thing when we first chatted that you said to me that made such an impact on me is that you said you had two choices. You could either basically give up or you could make a difference. And you chose to make a difference.
Yeah.
So share with me a little bit more about what that make a difference means to you and how you've been able to do that.
Absolutely. So it was give up or try to inspire other people. And so that inspiration or that goal to inspire other people is what really kept me going when things, don't get me wrong, it wasn't just I got the diagnosis, I did my Ironmans and everything was great, right? There were many challenges in between there, but what really kept me going was trying to inspire other people. And so there were days during chemotherapy that I had, I was wiped out. I had just done, maybe a 100-mile bike ride during chemo, or ran a marathon during chemo. And a few days later, I was completely wiped out. But then, and though I would post on social media, look, I just did a marathon during chemotherapy and I did a lot of support. But then 3 days later, when I could barely walk around the kitchen, I would post that video as well to show people that there are highs and there are lows.
Yes.
But then what matters is, there I'm at that low, what is the next situation going to be? And hopefully it's going to be another high. And so I think that's the compelling part, is when you can try to share the story of not just the highs when you win,
yes,
but at the bottom, right? Because that's where I think you really just decide and learn who you are as a person with internal gratitude.
Yes.
I can get through this and try to make a difference for other people.
And you can, and that message of you can too. And there's
exactly
another
right.
way that you're making a difference, and also a really big way, when you took on the VA. So share, I mean, literally that has and will continue to change lives and save lives of what you did based on your situation. So tell us about that.
Sure. So when there was a large, to really summarize, there was a large failure systemically at the VA, and in particular the Veterans Administration we're referring to, and in particular in Phoenix, for a lot of reasons. Phoenix was overloaded and overwhelmed with the population growth, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of veterans flocked towards Phoenix for the great weather, low price of entry for a home, and a lot of other variables. And so at that point, the VA system in Phoenix specifically became overloaded and overwhelmed. It took me 2 years just to get in to see a primary care provider. And when I finally saw a doctor, they diagnosed that I had a large prostate, but they were at that time too lazy and too overwhelmed to want to send me to a urologist for further screening and testing. And because of that failure, my disease spread, and it spread to become a stage 4 disease. At that time, hundreds of veterans like myself died at the Phoenix VA because their prostate cancer specifically spread, and then they ended up succumbing to that disease. When prostate cancer, when caught early, is 99% beatable when caught early. And so we lost hundreds of veterans just in Phoenix alone, because there was providers that were overworked and undereducated, and you had bad morale, and just on and on, right? It was a real disaster. So
that's heartbreaking, very heartbreaking.
It is. And when I look back on it, the part that still doesn't set right with me is that, well, ironically, so I used the tools that the military taught me for surveillance and, investigative work to break the story. And so my dad was a doctor, as I mentioned. I knew what good medicine looked like from watching him at UCLA. I knew what bad medicine looked like when I got to the VA. And so I knew I had to do something about it. So I started contacting the media and putting together a lot of data for them. And finally, Drew Griffith, who's passed away from CNN, he came out and helped me break the story at the VA that something wrong was happening. What we didn't know at the time was that this was systemic. This wasn't just in Phoenix. This was nationwide. There was a problem. And so what I mentioned earlier, what doesn't set right with me, is that so many doctors, so many nurse practitioners, so many staff members, so many veterans themselves, I'll say it, so many veterans and family members knew what was happening, knew that that these veterans that were heroes, the backbone of our country, were not getting proper health care. But no one wanted to speak up about it. And when you break it down, you look at the doctors and the nurses, they're making 6 figures. They have a comfortable job. If you're a urologist at the VA, say, for example, you make $250,000 a year, whether you do 1 surgery a year or 50 surgeries a year. So literally you default back to zero, because these are bureaucratic positions in a bureaucratic institution. And so the default became do no work versus let's do a lot of work. And so they had no incentive to speak up and lose their cushy job. The nurses had no incentive as well to lose their cushy job. The staff members didn't want to lose their jobs. And then the veterans are in a particular predicament because they receive a pension typically when they're at the VA. So they're a veteran, they're disabled, they're going to the VA, and they get anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 a month for their disabilities they incurred while serving our nation. they don't want to jeopardize that. So you had a system where no one wanted to speak up. And I said to myself, that's not right. Someone's got to speak up, and we did. And so, but as I mentioned, it still doesn't set right with me. I've talked to so many doctors and nurses and administrators that work at the VA since we broke the scandal, since my lawsuit that we won. And they told me we knew things were wrong and we didn't speak up. And they would even tell me, I had a doctor just last week say, I worked at the VA. The secretary of the VA announced that this is several years ago, that things are great, we're doing well. Steve Cooper is just, in his own other world. And the doctor's like, we all knew that this was wrong, but not one of those doctors would speak up, not one. And so that's probably, when I look back in life, the most unsettling thing that I've experienced, because as I mentioned with the Ironman, my goal was to try to inspire others.
Yeah.
When I'm faced with the challenge of the VA, I want to inspire other people. In this case, it was to speak up and try to do the right thing for other people. But unfortunately, monetary reasons have prevented people from wanting to speak up and tell the truth. And so when we finally got enough people that had the courage and the personal integrity to speak up, things moved quickly, and they moved, real well in the right direction, to where I was invited to be at the Rose Garden when President Trump signed legislation 4 years ago that said, if you're a veteran and you need health care and the VA cannot or will not offer that care, you have a right to get that care in the community. And
I
so,
love that.
yeah, and so that's, I think, as I said, not is it's very unsettling to me, but remember we talked about high points and low points?
Yeah.
The high point for me was, okay, we won a big lawsuit, but then the low point is I couldn't get other people before then to speak up and tell the truth. High point's a lawsuit, we win. Low point is, again, people still don't want to speak up because they don't want to lose their benefits. They don't want to lose their income. And so high point again is we get to the Rose Garden, we get legislation signed that we advocated for. And so that's what I take away from all of this, is that when you're going through hell, there are going to be some really great moments. Mm-hmm. And those great moments are what you have to hold on to and cherish. Because at the end of the day, that's all we have are those great moments.
Yeah. And because you were willing to speak up, though, you passed a law for them to get better care. Now, if we're looking at that from a point now, are those same things, even after the lawsuit, even after winning, even after VA knows that, are they still operating in the same way that they were before? Are they still doing the exact same things that they were before?
Yes. And it's political, and I don't want to get into politics per se, but just to give it just a real high level, quick, 20-second analysis, is that when the administration changed, things kind of went back to the way they were before. And there's a lot to it. There's unions involved. It just goes on and on. So, however, even though things have gone back to the way they were in many respects, it's out there now, right? 9 out of 10 people that I talk to, have 8 out of 10 at least, have heard about the veterans are having a hard time getting the right care at the hospital and in the community. Yeah. And so I think that's winning, that's cherishing a moment of success. Yeah. That it's out there now. And so now all eyes are on the VA to do the right thing for the veterans. And as much as I just beat them up, I will give them some credit on the side of processing their claims. So when a veteran gets out of the military and they want to get their benefits, it used to take 5 to 6 years for us to receive those benefits from the government. Gosh. Because of our work, veterans literally I've seen get benefits as quick as 30 to 60 days now after they've
That's awesome.
Service. So, or file a claim. So because of the pressure, things are getting systemically better on one side of the house, but on the medical side, there's still a long way to go.
And it's so fascinating because oftentimes we don't think about all those things that are involved with veterans getting the medical attention that they need. And what I love about, though, is that for this law, because you fought and because you decided to make a difference, it literally is helping so many people out there and helping people become more aware of the problem. When people are more aware of the problem, then they can do something about it as well. But also giving all the veterans a voice. So now if they feel like they're not getting care because people are at the VA, that people are choosing like their job over really speaking up, sometimes over doing the right things. When they're not getting that care at the VA, they have another option. They can go and get it somewhere else. And so you really allowed veterans' voices everywhere to be heard when that law was passed, because now, even if a veteran wasn't able to speak up for themselves before, you spoke up for them. Law was changed. And now, because of that, they can go out and get the care that they need. And literally, Steve, that in itself is saving so many lives. So you're not just an inspiration in having cancer, overcoming cancer, and persevering through that, doing an Ironman through cancer, but also just in you making the decision that you are going to be the voice. And maybe it was a subconscious decision, right? Maybe you just said, this can't continue to happen. I've got to help people. But what you really were is a voice for all the people who will be a voice for themselves. And that's the difference that you're really making in the world.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. And I appreciate that. And that's really what I want to share was that, when you're faced with life or death situation, you can quit or you can try to inspire the people. That's how I see it. And so the magnitude of change that we've been able to bring about to the table has been big in the exercise world for cancer patients, plus, helping veterans out. But that giving back and trying to inspire their people has helped me more than I can ever express, because there's been support from so many different angles and different perspectives and different, groups that reinforce that what I tried to say earlier was, whenever you face a challenge, whatever that big challenge is, I really inspire people to share. And you don't have to go on Facebook and tell the world that you have cancer, or you don't have to go do an Ironman, and you don't have to sue the government. But I think sharing with friends and family or people that you trust, and sometimes even just, a stranger. But the approach that I'm not a fan of is when I see people that I love and I know going through hard times, they'll make a social media post and say, I'm going through hard things, but I just can't share anything about it, or I don't want to share anything about it. And I think that's a real problem, because through sharing our story, that's how we make progress. That's how we can inspire the people. And that's how we can get to that next level in life.
Yes. Get the support that we need, because every human needs support. So thank you so much for being here, Steve. I love you being able to share your story and helping so many people and choosing to make a difference for all the people out there and being a voice for people. So thank you so much for being here. How are you going to go out and share your story with others? Like Steve says, go out and share your story no matter what you're going through. Someone somewhere has been through it. And by sharing your story, you're also going to help the people behind you, the people who have yet to go through it, know that they have that help whenever they do go through it. They have that help and the support, and that someone somewhere has been through it. And then you form that connection, which is what we all need. So whenever you're faced with the challenge, I love Steve's approach. You can either give up or you can make a difference. And we know you're going to choose to make a difference. So thanks for being here. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
Are you ready to move to your next level of rockstar greatness? CFO, Chief Fun Officer, #1 best-selling author, and keynote speaker Blaze Rector is ready to help you do that. At just 10 years old, he's already written 2 #1 best-selling books. Through the power of storytelling, he uses lessons learned and shares strategies, tips, tactics, and tools to inspire, empower, and motivate you to live a more amazing life. So if you're ready to do that in your own life, grab a copy of his #1 best-selling books at jessicarector.com/store. And when you order your copies, he will personally autograph them and write you a message on those books before shipping them out to you to really inspire and empower you in your life. These books are great for adults and kids alike. So if you're ready to move to your next level of rockstar greatness, make sure you grab your copy at jessicarector.com/store. Enjoy those amazing, empowering, transformational books. Did you know that the two biggest issues impacting the workforce are mental health and burnout? Well, we have your solution. The more that you feel burned out, the more it impacts your mental health. The more your mental health is impacted, the more it leads to burnout. So it's a vicious cycle that goes around and around, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can help them both if you're intentional and strategic with it. We have lots of resources for you at justcorrector.com/store. One that I want to highlight that really enhances your mental health is Tame Your Brain Game, 52 tips to turn negative thoughts into positive action. Now, research shows that 80% of your thoughts are negative. No matter how positive you feel, it's the pattern and the habit that you've developed over the course of years, over the course of decades. And that can often impact your life, how you show up, how you lead, how you communicate, how you engage, whether at work or at home. And then it also impacts a work environment. All you need is one NN or TT, negative Nancy or toxic Tim, to really impact that work environment. So if you are ready to enhance your mental health, get your copy of Tame Your Brain Game, 52 tips to turn negative thoughts into positive action today at justcorrector.com/store. All books are autographed with a personal message just for you. Thank you so much for being here. Check us out at thesayyesexperience.com. Our mission at the Say Yes Experience is to empower 10 million people to say yes. With your help in sharing our podcast, we can do that. Follow us on all social media at the Say Yes Experience and join our free community at facebook.com/groups/the Say Yes Experience. Thank you again to our guest. You can find all the contact information for our guest in the show notes. Thank you to our CFO, Chief Fun Officer, Blaze Rector, our business advisor, Lisa Bahurick, and to our team at Jessica Rector Enterprises. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Have an amazing day and keep being a rock star.